Everybody, welcome to MTG Open Mic. I'm just going to be talking today a little bit about what is going on with Magic the Gathering from my perspective. As a lot of you may know, I've been playing Magic the Gathering since 1994, so it's a long time ago. And I love the game. It's a great game. I still think it's the best game ever invented. There are a lot of good games, but I don't think there is any that is better. I'm sure there would be plenty of people that disagree, but those people would be wrong. So I love the game of Magic. And then we've got now this entity, Wizards of the Coast, that has come in and is sort of, was bought by Hasbro. And so my relationship, I started when I was 10 or 11 years old, is with the game of Magic. The cards that I played with back then, you have sort of a connection with the game, and, I'm a competitive person, so, like, when I'm playing the game, I like that competitive aspect. So my relationship is with Magic. So for me, this whole other thing that's going on over here, I try not to pay too much attention to. Of course, we're forced to pay a little bit of attention to it now because the cards are worth money. So that's now a whole other deal. But, like, for all of the people out there that just like to play the game of Magic, the game is there. The game's doing fine. The game is growing. And I think it's sort of interesting because, there's all this, always a lot of negativity or perceived negativity. I actually don't see it as negative. So there's a lot of, like, content creators that post problems about this or that, or don't like, this card from this set, or don't like the decision or the direction that Wizards of the Coast is taking. And again, all the problems are, with the business aspect, not with the game aspect. And to me, the game is doing great. But even further than that, like, whether or not a content creator is putting out positive content or negative content, to me, and I would assume to Wizards of the Coast, it's all the same shit. Like, is it negative or positive? It doesn't matter. They're talking about the game. They're getting the game out there. And, like, and all of the people that are making this content, you have to realize, are also dependent upon this system in some ways to benefit off of that content in some way. Whether that be, getting subscribers, or getting people to join their Patreon or go to their store. There's a whole ecosystem that is so ingrained in the game, and as, the first of its kind, I think that there's not really a lot that can happen that is just going to obliterate that. And I just think that, anyone who says the game is dying or there's no future is just not thinking it through, is a nice way of putting it, I think. Because, between the LGSs, the content creators, the players, the distributors, like, there are a lot of people's livelihoods and jobs that depend on Magic the Gathering at this point. And a lot of the content creators, what I would say is that when people who are almost only posting negative content start to post positive content, that means that maybe they're actually worried at this point that they're damaging the brand. And I don't think that anybody has really that much power to do it. And I think that's a good thing, actually. Of course, I think there are things that could be changed, but the things I don't like, I don't partake in. If I don't like a set, I don't buy it. If I don't like a card, I ignore it. There's plenty of cards that I do like that I can find to play with, or look at, or hang on my wall, or whatever you do with your cards. So that's sort of where I am at with that whole thing. It's the same game. There's tons of way to play. The game has like an incredible reach. I mean, it was just on Saturday Night Live mentioned by Billie Eilish the other day. So just the fact that all of these things are baked into the game is pretty important, and something I don't think that people consider, or maybe they do. I don't know. Another thing I wanted to talk about was, just Wizards of the Coast a little bit more, because that's sort of maybe more problematic for some people, where they don't like the direction that the game is going in. They don't like the decisions. They don't like the serialized cards. They don't like the endless secret layers. And I'm sort of in that camp, but and I kind of want to talk about Mark Rosewater for a second here, because he's been the face of the game for a super long time, and I don't know the exact year, but since I can remember, that's just been a household name for my brothers and I, who also partake in the MT gene, if you will. And all of the things that are happening, if any of you have ever worked for a corporation where corporations, let's take a small tangent here about a corporation. I think a corporation is like a living, breathing entity, and the corporation wants what the corporation wants, and that's profit, right? So you have all of these small bits and pieces of like twigs and leaves that are just really at the mercy of the will of the corporation itself. So the corporation is just moving in a direction, and even if all the pieces of that tornado, the corp tornado, aren't on the same page, it doesn't matter. It's just going to keep moving that way. So it's a little bit frightening to think about, but what I'm trying to say is that imagine a world where Mark Rosewater wasn't still the head of game design. I kind of see him, instead of like, he's pushing these policies or these cards or not play testing enough. I kind of see him as sort of the last guardian of the old right of MTG. And I have a feeling, and I have no factual evidence for this. This is all conjecture from me. That's it. This is just my thoughts. But I see him as sort of like the last guardian, and I imagine, as with any corporation, he has people that he has to answer to, and so I just a lot of times wonder, where would Magic the Gathering be if Mark Rosewater was not still in place where he is today? And I don't really like to think about that. So, Mark Rosewater, you rock. Is there something else that I want to talk about? Oh, and then as far as like the so now the Wizards of the Coast, and then we have Hasbro. And Hasbro, I think, has discovered the life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player. And I think that so in the sense that I think people like myself, I know there are a lot out there who have been playing the game for years and years and years, but I think there are many, many more that have not. And so I think when you have, and the people that do play for longer times, I also think are the people that tend to make content about the game. So, going back to the life cycle, or my perceived life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player. And even us old folks who have played the game for a long time go through cycles where you play for a long time, you play hardcore, you take a break, you come back and you play. And it kind of ebbs and flows. Where I've probably sold my collection off 2 different times in my life. But let's just take this as a hypothesis. Let's say that the life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player is 2 years. So, as a corporation tornado, the corporation's will is to make as much money with the least amount of overhead as possible. Which we could do a whole nother video on that about investing and does it make something good just because it will yield you, more money than you started with before you made that decision. But we'll save that for another day. So we have we were talking about the corporation tornado. So the corporation tornado is swirling around and boy, this video's gone. Now this is good. This is really good stuff. So Hasbro is a corporation tornado, and they are just sweeping across. I have derailed, completely derailed. We were talking about the life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player, and I don't know really what happened after that. Kind of blacked out for a second. So let's say that the life cycle of a Magic the Gathering player is 2 years. It's in the best interest of the corporation tornado to maximize your profit out of those 2 years for that life cycle. And the way to do that is to get them to buy as many cards and products as possible. And the way to do that is to release as many products as possible. So that's what they're doing. But from a sustainability standpoint, again, I just don't think there's really any problem with the longevity of Magic. I don't think there's a bad moon rising. I don't think there should be emissaries of despair. I think it's just a mana vault. It's going to be around for a while. But that's what Hasbro is doing. So, as a large corporation tornado, it's sort of their job. Going to Amazon, yeah, that sucks for the local game stores, and I don't like what they're doing with it. But again, if you're, worried about the state of Magic from the standpoint of a business, a lot of businesses start small as a tiny little company, and they grow and grow and grow and grow, as is the will of any corporation. And as they grow, the will gets stronger, and then they don't necessarily need those smaller accounts anymore. And so, as far as from a sustainability standpoint, Magic the Gathering as a game is not going anywhere. I do want to find a way to loop the local game stores back in a little bit more than they have been. But anyway, I think I've ranted for long enough. 15 minutes, yeah, that's definitely a long time. But remember, the next time that a piece of content comes out or an announcement is made from Wizards, and all the content creators start grabbing at it like a scrap of bloody meat, from it's just like chum in the water, and they're all sharks, or I can include myself. I'm now creating content, I guess. So you just have to keep in mind that the content creators have to feed, and I don't know, man. It's just not as simple as, prices are weak, the game is dead. It's not dead. There's also, I didn't even talk about the other card games and the effect that has on it psychologically for players who are seeing what is happening with other games. But I mean, Magic the Gathering is like the mutual fund of collectible card games. So I think that the people who are in their options trading are going to come back to the stable, to the more predictable, to the sustainable, which I think is Magic the Gathering. Which is not to say that some of the other card games could not be that. But, okay, I said I was going to stop a minute ago, but now I'm really going to stop. That's it. That's my video for the day.